no disrespect to Eurodance scene, but
Well,
it's just not my
shout
thing.
out DJ Mangu.
Yeah.
What a banger.
What a tune. What a tune.
Someone's got to drop that in a boiler room soon. How am I keeping inspired? I think watching films and just kind of spending time with people as well. I find if I hide away too long, I start to lose some inspiration. So, you know, socializing, seeing friends, hanging out with people. It's a bit of an identity crisis on that front, because it's like, should I do a breaks tune or should I do a 4/4?
Do you have a track that personally you adore and means a lot to you, and was it received the same way?
Oh man, send that demo email and you're like,
The first demo.
the first demo, and I was like, there's no way that's going to work, but who knows, let's just fire it off.
Were these illegal?
Potentially illegal. I don't know if you could call them illegal.
There's nothing illegal on this podcast.
This tune is called Nightbus. You're on the way home from a night out on the Nightbus, and it's like, I'm still in love with you.
So Max, I've got to ask the first question, which is a question I love hearing about, is was there a specific track, compilation, album? How did you get into dance music? Was there a specific thing?
That's a great question, man. I think, and it's almost painful to say this now, because the artist that that got me into dance music now is probably not one of my favorite anymore, but it was Tiesto.
Nice. Okay.
And
Any
it was
particular album?
I think it's his first album, which was Magical Journey. Is it called Magical Journey?
Mate, that is still a good album. And give me some tracks off that, tracks that you used to like to listen to.
What was on there now? I'm just trying to rack my brain. I think the intro track, which was called Magical Journey, and it started with like a super cinematic, almost orchestral like intro, and it was like a film. And then suddenly, like halfway through the track, it like breaks down and just starts going din 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 din.
So
and it's like a progressive builder.
You could say then that it's trance really that got you into dance music.
Absolutely, mate. And then from that, obviously Armin van Buuren's State of Trance.
Old Armin.
Yeah, old Armin. Like his ASOT 2004, I think.
Nice.
His year mix. Absolutely blew me away. I had it on my little MP3 player with my £1 headphones.
USB MP3 player as well.
Yeah, I think you had to actually plug in a wire and then plug that into your computer. It was that old school. And you had to have a AAA battery in it as well. And it had this little flick toggle on top that you could just go next track. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so is that, because that album is, and this is me speaking personally, I know quite a few tracks off that album. Is that the one with like Kirsty Hawkshaw, Just Be, all of those?
That's the album Just Be. I think that is probably also, because the Magical Journey album came out just before Just Be, and then Just Be dropped, and then I was just like, wow. And that's got Battleship Grey on it, which is incredible. It's like, you wouldn't even associate that track with Tiesto nowadays. It's like almost like down tempo breaks, really depressive, emotional.
Not current Tiesto by any means. And it's the same with Armin as well. But it's interesting because a lot of people I speak to personally, when they talk about a genre that got them into it, trance is the one. Yeah. And it's funny because even like people have now moved away from it. So now I assume you're not making any trance unless you surprise me that you are.
I'm not. But unfortunately, no. But it's always, I think, rooted in my sound. You know, I'm always drawn to big chords, potentially a nice high piano note, even loads of reverb, you know, that classic kind of children piano kind of vibe, but obviously modernized now. But yeah, it's certainly rooted in my sound, I think, trance. I can't get away from it. It's like the plucks are great, and like nowadays you can throw loads of delay and make them all cool and stuff. And I think it's cool to see as well, like trance has come back into the mainstream almost. Like even like David Guetta, like the people, Calvin Harris, like their latest releases at the moment are very
Calvin Harris, absolutely. Like he's trying to bring back 90s trance massively. And I think it's funny how it comes full circle, like with the whole sound and everything. Because I think, you know, arguably in your tracks, there is trance elements in the form of pads and chords. Like, is there any, like specifically where you think like that is just way trancey? Or is there any particular sound you reach for? Or synth, which is like, that's trancey, even though it's made its way into one of your records?
Yeah. Well, obviously the Super Saw, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's I love it. I absolutely love it. And sometimes I'll have to refrain from using it, but I've got a way of sneaking it in, which is like the cool way, which is ultimately a respace, right? So a respace is basically a really low super, well, it's not really a super saw, but it's two saws detuned, and it's like gives you that phasey saw sound. But I can like sneak it in as like the sub in a track, and it gives this warmth, but it also is kind of in a way related to trance. It's like it's still a very trancey sound. If you pitch it up and do like a chord with it, it's going to sound like a classic super saw almost. But yeah, I mean, plucks, just like saw plucks with loads of delay on, they always make their way into my tracks. I've also got a Virus TI. I don't know if you know.
I do know, Max, because I've seen that in your studio, and like that's why I asked about specific trance sounds, because if you're going to talk about trance and you're going to talk about synths, you're going to talk about Virus TI.
Absolutely, man. And I think it's since like since the early days of getting into production, I think when YouTube almost first came about, I don't know if you know Sonic State, the YouTube channel.
Yes, Sonic State, who actually made Kick 2 and other stuff.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the guy's name. It's a Scottish guy.
What's his name? Is it Andy? No.
Yeah,
he's great.
Shout out to the guy from Sonic State, because those early tutorials are really good. And you know, you mentioned about that 2004 era of trance. Obviously, it's very different to the current trance. Like, what was it, like faster 138 stuff that you liked? Was it groovier bass lines?
It was the groovier stuff. So it was like Flight 643.
Tiesto, yeah.
Yeah, and because that just had like a super like groove to it. It was almost one note. But it was like all about the groove on that track. And then there was also Lethal Industry. I think these tracks were still quite quick by today's standards, at least. The underground sound, nowadays modern commercial music is quite quick, but I think underground is still sitting around 125. Like it's quite,
definitely,
at least in my realm. But in terms of trance, it's probably, I don't really listen to trance nowadays, so I wouldn't be able to compare it to that. But yeah, I think they were probably sitting around 135, the Tiesto tracks that I used to love.
Yeah, I think so, particularly Flight 643. I really like that record, but that was an era where, and I feel like this doesn't happen anymore, which is, it's like the same sound and the same theme.
Yeah.
But throughout the whole time, and they can filter it up and down. And Flight 643 is a perfect example.
Yeah.
If I could put it in the podcast and if I could get the rights to it, I would play it now and we'd have a listen. But I think that would be a bit more difficult from Black Hole Recordings.
Definitely. I think Suburban Train is also amazing.
Oh, and that still gets played to this day when I think of like DJ Boring, his Boiler Room that he did in Amsterdam. Like that's, I mean, I really miss that sound because I'm also a trancer at heart. So I think it's, and I really like hearing how people got into dance music. I think it's really important to know, your roots, even though you don't listen to it. 'Cause mine was Cosmic Gate Exploration of Space.
Yeah, Cosmic Gate.
Which was proper Eurodance. I would never listen to Eurodance now. No disrespect to Eurodance scene, but it's just not my thing.
Shout out DJ Mangu.
Yeah.
He's a beast.
Is that the one that did the... Oh
Eurodance,
my God, yeah. That is the track.
It's brilliant, man.
Do you know what? I completely forgot about that until you just mentioned it.
What a banger.
What a tune.
Someone's got to drop that in a boiler room soon.
Yeah, I feel like maybe like Jobs, Palms Tracks would do something like that, maybe. Yeah,
Can
that's
see
funny.
that happening.
So I'll go to the next question, which is what's been inspiring you recently? Because I've spoken to you personally. You've had a lot of releases on Colorize, Sekora. So obviously you're feeling pretty inspired and you like writing music. What keeps you motivated to do that? Is there certain things you can do, like, like mentally to relax yourself or get in the zone, or is it just feeling good? Like, how are you keeping inspired at the moment?
It's a good question again. How am I keeping inspired? I think watching films and just kind of spending time with people as well is my main inspiration. Like, I find if I hide away too long, I start to lose some inspiration. So, socializing, seeing friends, hanging out with people, experiencing new things. We've been traveling quite a bit as well, which is super nice. I've transitioned over to MacBook, so I always take my MacBook now and sit there and make some music on holiday, which is cool, and just try and produce something in a different environment. I find is cool. But in terms of so just kind of life inspires me, I would say. Nature as well, like nice vistas, looking upon a nice vista,
landscapes,
or
that
landscapes,
kind of thing. And would
yeah.
you, so let's say you're traveling, let's say you've been to, I don't know, where have you been to recently? It was Italy?
I've done Italy, and Madeira was also
Madeira.
really
so
cool.
Is there any tracks called Madeira coming out or anything? Or is there anywhere in Madeira, like any spot that was particularly inspiring or?
Wow, I mean, Madeira had many spots. Yeah, there was just mountain after mountain. We went to the top of the tallest mountain on the island and just took that in there. I didn't bring my MacBook. It was quite a hike but
you remembered it and you obviously went back and felt inspired. Yeah. And I think that's because sometimes when you're on a roll, you don't ever think about it. But then when you've got the writer's block or whatever, when you actually look back, it's like, well, I'm not going out and doing anything. So how the hell am I going to feel inspired to make anything new? But it's interesting you say people as well, because would you say that like a relaxed social environment would gear you up to then?
Sometimes just meeting new people is always good, but also I think one of my biggest inspirations is other producers. So like,
nice.
I do a lot of talking to. We've got like a group of us, me, Matt, La, LGU. And Bonatti's in there as well.
Nice. All fantastic producers. Shout out to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out the boys, ADE crew.
Yeah.
So we all met in ADE last year actually. So we've only been talking for a year, but I think we all impact each other's music quite heavily, because everything we make we share in a WhatsApp group and just kind of
nice.
all give
That's
feedback.
Really good to have, and to have other producers giving you feedback.
So
I think that's really important. And it's funny you mentioned, because LGU, he's someone that I always send tracks to, because if you want like a critical ear, I feel like he's really good. But you know, what better way to get out the cobwebs if you send something there like, what you're playing at doesn't sound like you.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you know to bin it sooner rather than later.
They'll tell you straight away, because it's such an open environment, and it's almost a mini community. It's only the four of us, but we're super open and we won't take anything the wrong way. So it's a great space to just share ideas and see what people think of it. And we all have, I mean, we're similar sounds, but we're also producing quite different music. So
I would say like identity wise, like you're very different. Like I could tell one of your tracks, I could tell an LGU track, from a mile off, even if it's unreleased or it gets played. Like, and I think that's I think Matt Lang mentioned it at some point with like TB from Calex and TB, like having a mixed identity, like where that's someone's track. And it might be there's always sounds you reach for, or particular drum patterns or something. Yeah. So
I'm trying to identify my sound now, and I think with breaks have certainly helped me do that. Not many people know it, but I used to also produce drum and bass, like Liquid. So breaks is almost quite close to my heart, really, with it being related to drum and bass.
Trying to claw its way back into 125 BPM.
It absolutely is. And when I first heard breaks, I was like, oh wow, this is cool, because I can also use some of my Liquid knowledge that I've been doing for many years. So I can kind of pour that over in a way and start making breaks and bring something new to the table, maybe, because it's all about trying to carve a new sound within this space, obviously quite saturated space.
Massively.
And so with breaks, it's given me that. I've created a pattern which I think is the MXV breaks pattern, and you'll hear it on like Nightbus, you'll hear it on Always with, I can't remember the name of my own tune. What is it? Always something with you or something?
Yeah, well, and that was going to be one of my questions, and we could easily break it down in the production process. But speaking from something personally, I think what I really like about your records are the breaks. I love breaks. I'm thinking old school Sasha.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And I remember actually, I think I was around yours and you were showing me some of your productions. And I remember I was like, how does Max make his breaks? And like it was, to have someone say that about you shows that you're doing the right thing, or that you've got your own sound. And if that breaks is what works for you, then just roll with it. But also if you wake up and you don't want to make breaks and you want to go forward to the floor, go forward to the floor.
Yeah. It's a bit of an identity crisis on that front, because it's like, should I do a breaks tune or should I do a 4/4? Because I obviously still love 4/4, but always get drawn to like a breaks track. I'll make a progression and I would think this would sound good with a break under it. I should probably do a break beat.
And do you ever have it where you're like writing a 4/4 tune, you stick the breaks on underneath and then it sounds sick? And it's like the thing that's been missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Or I'll also do the other way around as well, and chuck a have a breaks tune, just remove the kick and then put a 4/4 in and be like, oh, that sounds cool.
Also, it works the other way around.
It does work
as well.
the other way around as well, which is I've done a tune which starts off breaks and then the second drop is a 4/4 kick, and it's quite a nice switch up that you don't really expect, but not a lot else It changes throughout the tune, but that alone gives such a different vibe to from a broken kick to a straight 4/4. It's like
it sounds like everything just kind of slips into the middle.
Yeah, it's a great progression for the tune, and like the drop has real impact because of that subtle change, which is cool. So I've been experimenting doing that, which is fun. So you can have best of both worlds.
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that, because I mean, this kind of goes into my next question actually, which is, when it comes to production, I'm speaking personally and other people that I've spoken to, but people, sometimes the track that means the most to them, or that they think is going to be the big one, doesn't turn out to be the big one, or it's not as well received. So I guess my next question is, do you have a track that personally you adore and means a lot to you, and was it received the same way?
Oh man, obviously, of course. Every producer has their tune that they're like, oh, that's my baby. Yeah. And then you release it and just nothing happens.
Yeah, or like maybe even the label doesn't want to have it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's got to be the first MXV release, right? And I don't think anyone has probably even heard it.
Do you even remember what it's called?
Yeah. I do remember this one.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it was a 3-track EP. And it was, I don't know if anyone remembers that Gabriel Ananda, he had a label called Soulful Techno. And it was like, when I first started listening to melodic techno, it was like one of the key labels in the sound. And I was like obsessing over it. And I think the first tune I heard was from Departure. He had a really nice track on there. And then I also heard another one from Steve Slight. I don't know if you know Steve Slight.
I've heard of the name, but I couldn't tell you any tracks.
These guys are pretty progressive. Like it was very progressive, but also melodic. So it was quite early days before your Anjunadeep. Anima.
Who is everywhere at the moment.
Everywhere.
Every time I open Instagram, I get another drop video from him.
Yeah, literally. yeah. But that sound has become synonymous now with like melodic techno, and that is kind of the melodic techno sound. That big drop, big kick drum, quite minimal drums. But this was around, what year would this have been? This was probably like 2016. So melodic techno didn't exist in that realm, and it was very much kind of people figuring it out, branching out from, you've got elements of trance, you've got elements of like normal progressive house, and then people were putting like nice melodies. I mean, it's progressive trance, but it was slowed down, so it was progressive house.
Yeah.
But it also had a deeper
bass lines or anything.
No. It had a much deeper sound. So it was like rooted in. It was something was kicking off and brewing, and it was like the real start of that sound, I think. But there was this label called Soulful Techno, and they were kind of, for me, pioneering that sound. It was Gabriel Ananda's label, and I was idolizing all of their releases. I was like, this is the sound, this is so cool. And I remember I made this EP basically, and I was like, wow, you know, when you send that demo email and you're like,
the first demo,
the first demo, and I was like, there's no way that's going to work, but who knows, let's just fire it off and see what happens. And then I remember the day, and it was just like, Soulful Techno replied to your demo, and it wasn't sorry, it's not for us. And I was like, oh my god, no way. Open the email. I think I was at work at the time, and I opened the email. I was just reading it like, oh my, you know, when you're just like, every line your heart beats quicker and quicker. You're like, oh my god. And they were like, yeah, we really like it, and basically we would love to put it out. And I was just like, no way, like this was huge.
That's a big first release to have, especially on a label that you idolize. Like, I think that doesn't happen to many people. So maybe, would you say that you put your heart and soul into it and it paid off? Like,
massively. And I was transitioning from drum and bass, so I wasn't quite sure if it was sounding in the right space, like sonically, because quite drastically different sounds. So I was worried that, you know, it sounds good, but, you know, when the mixing isn't quite there, or it's not, you know, it wasn't what we were expecting. But yeah, it went through and got signed, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This release is going to be huge. Like, this is the label I've been dreaming about. And yeah, we put it out, and I remember the artwork is amazing. Like the girl who used to work at Soul for Techno actually drew it herself. She was like, I drew this, I got really inspired by the track and like drew it. And I was like, this is so cool. Like it's all coming together so nicely. And then, yeah, released at least on Spotify, it didn't do too well. It's got like less than 1,000 plays on most of the, I think 2 of the tracks.
Really?
And, yeah.
That's surprising to hear, I guess, because you idolize that label. And were the other tracks getting a lot of plays? Do you think it was a name thing or?
I'm not sure. It was, I think I was maybe one, but there was a few more releases after me, and then the label actually died. The label closed down, basically. I think there was some things happening internally at Soul for Techno, but I don't know exactly what happened.
Well, maybe that is why it didn't get the push it deserved. It would
potentially.
Maybe that's why, but that was a really good answer to the question, actually, because I didn't know that was your first track.
Yeah, there you go. And it was called Ti Amo. And Ti Amo, Trauma, and Keep On Looking. Those are the 3 tunes.
So it's 3 tunes on an EP.
Yeah. And Trauma was really cool. I remember why the inspiration behind that track. It was called Trauma because I went to a rave in London. It's called Warm Up. Shouts to Warm Up. And yeah, it's like they do this party called Warm Up in the woods, and it's like a pretty cool party. But it's very like it's intense. You go on a little journey when you go there. Like actually physically, because they're in areas of London,
the UK, well, no, so of London.
It's all in London, yeah, but it's quite out of the way. You like maybe have to go to the middle of a park or somewhere that you wouldn't.
Were these illegal?
Potentially illegal. I don't know if you could call them illegal.
There's nothing illegal on this podcast.
Not an advocate for illegal parties.
Yeah, guys, party safe, please, for the love of God.
Yeah.
Unless it's this event, what's it called? Warm up. Unless it's warm up, then you can go.
Outside warm up. But yeah, no, it was a party. It had a proper like big party there, and it was just I came back and I think I wrote this chord progression first thing in the morning as I got back, and I was just like, I need to write this melody. I need to get this out, and it was because I had such an intense experience at this rave, basically, like going there through the forest in the dark, like it was like a misty night, and we were like, me and my friends just heard the music like boom in the background. It's like, oh, we're getting close. We're getting
nice.
And we're literally in the middle of like Tottenham Marshes, like walking through, like, where are we going? Oh, everyone's a bit nervous, where no one knew where they were going.
So is this the first night you went to?
No, it wasn't the first night, but it was the first proper party of this nature that I went to. Yeah, for sure. And
an eye-opening experience.
Definitely an eye-opening experience. Saw lots of things that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it inspired me massively because this whole new world. This was a new world for me, like entirely. So yeah, getting back, I was like, right, I need to make something. And I don't know why, but Trauma just came to me as like the right name for the track, because it was traumatic in a way, but the track is then, if you listen to it, quite melancholic and euphoric. The chord progression is very old school trance.
Nice.
It's like
can't get away from it.
Big like arpeggiated chords, like, and with just a rolling bass underneath it, and it's all like dreamy, but also kind of like it's introspective. But yeah, it's Trauma was a track that definitely I wanted to be heard and didn't really get heard. So if anyone wants to listen to that'd be cool.
Yeah, Trauma MXV, guys. It might be on less than 1,000 plays still. It might be a hidden gem. Someone might be playing it soon. Right. Who knows?
Who knows? Hopefully. We can dream.
So yeah, I think next question, and then I guess we can think about maybe walking through a track or something. But so what is next for MXV? Is there, now that you've established your sound, is there a particular sound that you feel comfortable with? Are you still working on it? What's in the works? Anything that you can share with us?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've become close with the label Colorize.
Yes. Shout out to Colorize.
Yeah, big up. Hot Lewis and Fry.
Yeah.
Shout out to Adam.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've been working a lot with Colorize. They've given me some great opportunities. Was lucky enough to play at London in their debut. I think it was their first show in London, at least for a while. Played there and warmed up for the likes of Estiva and Prana.
That was a wicked night. Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah, shouts to the Colorize guys, by the way, because they've been very good to Max and they've also been very good to me. And they throw sick parties, so you should definitely get down to them. But yeah, they've been good to you. And then what's next?
and I've got a remix coming out for Estiva. I think by the time
Nice.
this is aired. It might be out there. So yeah, it's from his album. This track called Ghost Town.
Nice.
So I've done a breaks remix of that.
Oof.
And the cool thing about that is I was super humbled because Steve actually personally recommended me to do it, because he played, I think it was It's Always Been You on his Colorscapes last year, and he ended his like Colorscape set with that track, and I didn't realize, but it actually was he really enjoyed it basically, and he was like, oh yeah, he latched onto the MXV breaks sound, and when his album released, he was like, I want a MXV breaks remix, so he actually requested it, and I was like, wow, that's crazy.
That's really good, and I think that's, you know, that says a lot really for him, because he's a heavyweight on Colorize. He's probably one of the biggest names.
Yeah,
he's
definitely.
a wicked producer. So I think the fact that he personally came out and said that, kudos.
Yeah, I was blown away, to be honest. It was amazing.
So yeah, that's maybe guys listen out for that.
Yeah, and other than that, I think I've got some more original work coming, which I'm super excited about. I've been working a lot with vocalists, so I've been working with I've worked with Sarah De Warren, who I'm super excited to.
She's done a lot of trance.
She has done. But the track we've done is not a trance tune. There's no trance in there. It's actually almost Afro beat. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a different angle for maybe MXV and Sarah. So yeah, we'll see.
Nice, man.
When that drops.
Yeah, really excited to hear all of those. Like, I've been fortunate enough to hear a lot of stuff personally from you, you know, in the past. But speaking of which, I think now's probably a good time we take a deep dive into one of Max's own records. So he's going to walk us through Nightbus in Ableton, which I personally love this track. It's got breaks in. It's also got big trancey chords. So it's actually spot on what we've been talking about. So we're going to go over and screen record from Max's Mac, and you guys can follow along. So for those listening, we're fortunate enough to have a walkthrough of Nightbus. Max is going to walk us through the track, and we're recording his software. So if you guys want to follow along and actually see the project, then you can watch this back on YouTube as well. So Max, talk us through Nightbus. What's it got in it? What are you breaking down for us?
So this is, funnily enough, it's my first ever track in Ableton. I used to work in FL Studio. I know, the shame. A lot of people don't consider it a real door, but it is all right. It's close to my heart. But I was kind of learning Ableton, so I did some like weird, cool little tricks that I thought were quirky, and I was using everything that I wanted to try and learn every single aspect. So there's things in here that I probably wouldn't do now. I mean, I was using sends to like group up. I didn't realize you could group stuff and then use that as a send.
Control G, shout out Control G.
Yeah, hold tight, Control G. But I didn't realize you could like group and then that's a bus, because that's how you bus in Ableton, right? You just group stuff.
Yeah.
You've got a bus, so which is really cool. But in FL, you had to like send it into a bus. So I was obviously using the returns as buses, which is weird. But I did that, and then but this is the track. This is the Ableton project. I don't know, where should we start? Do you want to start with the drums, or
let's start with the drums. So yeah, this is something I want to know personally. So I'm going to get selfish here, but I would love to hear the breakdown of the breaks. You know, are you chopping up breaks? Are you doing individual hits? Is it a combination of both? So yeah.
Yeah, wow. Let's take the automation off. So what I do actually is let's play this breakbeat. There's quite a bit going on in these drums, and I mean, you've got a layer of, there's an individual kick layer which kind of just triggers on its own, which is here. So that's like quite a clean cut kick, right? And that actually goes out into the low end send bus. So you don't hear that within this. I've done this the wrong way, I'm going to admit it, but just take it for granted. That is the kick, okay? And that kick, I do that kick, and it's sitting on its own channel. It has its own bit of processing on it. It's got a bit of EQ. Some of the plugins here, I've had to port this over from my PC, so they're not there. But yeah, we had a bit of vintage compressor from Ozone. There's a bit of room EQ actually with a real short decay.
Nice short decay. So that just makes it sound, yeah. I mean, some people would consider that a little bit unorthodox to put a reverb on a kick, but what's the decay time on there?
You've got 0.29 seconds.
Huge reverb.
Massive. And you got like 15% of actual mix. So there's nothing really happening in there. And I've took the bass multi down all the way. So yeah, it's no real low end frequencies going on with that reverb. And then another little bit of notching in Q there, maybe a bit of noisy bit. Absolutely love this compressor. I'm not sure if you've come across it, but it's an absolute beast.
Yeah, is that this is based on the CL1, which is a famous compressor, and I think the hardware one is quite expensive.
It's very expensive, yeah. It's upwards of like $4,000, I think now, which is mad for like a mono compressor. You need two of them. If you want to mix in stereo, you need two of them. That's $8,000 on compressors. Mad, absolutely mental. But yeah, that's kind of like a dream for me to have a studio with two of those in the rack.
That's when you know you've made it. And one day you'll have two of those in the rack and you'll give them a little stroke, give them a little kiss, and you know that you've made it.
And the funny thing is I'll probably never use them. I'll like maybe run the master through it and that'll be it.
But it's just a flex either way.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Because I mean, I can just control D this and I've got two of them. It's like that simple. But that's the world we live in now with plugins. It's pretty cool. But yeah, this guy's kind of just squashing the kick. It's doing about 2.5 dBs of compression, just pretty much default. I love the tone of it. That's why I mainly use it. You'll see it a lot in this project. Again, another bit of post compression EQ. I mean, I do a lot of EQing, and then I did have a scope, which is, I think it's a Windows only plugin, but I've got another one which I use on Mac now. It's called something scope. Let me just bring it up. Yeah, Megascope, Oscilloscope, Olizos Megascope.
Oh, I've seen, yes.
And that one shows you kind of like the waveform ultimately, and I use it for getting the absolute perfect sidechain, and I can demonstrate that in a bit. But yeah, so I've spent a long time talking about the kick, but I think it's a very important part of the track. After the kick then, so into the actual breaks aspect, I love to get amens. So in answer to your question, is it individual hits? It's amen breaks chopped up. And I used the sampler here in Ableton, which is just amazing. And you can use it in slice mode, which then slices up the break on the transients and puts it across the key bed. And then you can kind of build your own pattern here, which is what I've done down here. So this is that. And that's kind of, I build my groove there. And I almost think that there is the quintessential MXV break pattern, if you like.
There you go, guys. If you're going to take anything away, that is the secret sauce. So is this a classic amen break? Is there one that you always go for, or do you use different variations of it? Yeah,
I mean, it's the classic amen clean break, which is used on a billion records, to be honest with you. I wish I could probably just one shot this. Would this play? Let me see if I can play it. That's a different sound. I'm hoping I can just play this. It doesn't want to do it. And that is the original break, right? I think it's slowed down quite a lot there. It's warped. So I could unwarp it and we could hear the original sample. Oh,
a bit of dance music history there, guys. I'm sure everyone's heard of it, but if you haven't, the amen break is probably one of the biggest, the biggest drum loop of all time. So
yeah, absolutely. But obviously, that is the drum and bass speed version of it. I think the original it's not the absolute original amen. That is a amen. I think I've got it out of an old school. I can't remember the pack. It's here. It's ES, but it's one of the old drum and bass packs that I used to use. And yeah, it has the classic like amen pack, and yeah, that was one of those ones. And I just always kind of gravitate towards that raw, very like you can hear from the original sample that it's very raw and like cymbally. It's got lots of noise and lots of character in there. And the cool thing about Ableton, you can use the transient mode, and you can like gate each individual transient and kind of add a really short decay on it. Let's bring up the break tune. So yeah, it's the envelope here. So you can use the transients mode here, right? And then you can also select this, which is a brilliant. It basically enables you to apply an envelope to each transient. So if you go back to 100, you get all that bleed through of each individual hit. So if we bring that down, I think I had it around 24. That's when you can get a very clean hit off each of the transient, and gives you the ability to really make your own groove, basically. And then I've layered that in again with another break, which is this guy, which is not playing. Why is he not playing? God,
he's disappeared.
Oh no! Actually, this track didn't get used, so we won't. I didn't layer it in. This was an Addictive Drums layer, which actually is muted on the original track, so I'm going to delete that.
Housekeeping.
What I did do though is layer it in with house drums. So this, I think, is the key to getting a really full break. So if I play the whole thing there, you can hear there's like a shuffle underneath it. And this ultimately is the shuffle layer. I think it's this guy. Cool. So it's almost like a tropical house.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And would you say that's obviously the glue that keeps it together for the break?
Yeah, it certainly brings the whole thing together. And I also use a tambourine loop and a 909 hat. So they're all in there. There is also this layer, which is an Apache, which is another form of aim and break. So again, if you're into liquid drum and bass, another classic kind of drum loop is the Apache. Let's play that. If I can just get that to play on its own. So I want to get it on its own, unwarp it.
Nice.
So it has those lovely like bongo drums.
Yeah, that's definitely a different texture and tone to the original Amen break as well.
Yeah, so I brought that in, and let's see if we can warp it and apply the envelope. Okay, so we're back to where we were. And yeah, so I've layered that in with the Amen break. Let's bring that in. So that's your two sample loops cut up, layered in. And then there's also, so we've got this very like
909
normal 909 house groove. And then with the bongos, so we've got the tropical house, almost tropical house loop as well in there. And yeah, and then chucked in a shaker and a tambourine. And that's how you get that whole full package of drums. And then I think also really important is some of the processing that happens on the drum bus to kind of glue these together. I use clippers quite a lot. Actually, this clipper's doing nothing. It's just really giving me that tasty saturation. This T-Rex clipper's super for lovely saturation. I also then run that into a Trash.
Great plugin.
I think this guy's discontinued now, but I'm just using the Cactus drive on this and it sounds amazing. Nothing else really getting triggered, but it's got some great, again, I love drive and saturation because it just pulls stuff together so well. Vintage compressor from Ozone. Just touching the top there, nothing major. I feel like that's just some tasty glue. Then obviously CL1B. I'm actually slamming this into about 3 dB, so that again glues it even more. And then my Soothe isn't loaded, but I did chuck in another one just at the end, just because I knew it just takes the tops off. And Soothe is a massively useful plugin. It just saves so much time in every aspect. But that is ultimately the drums. I think there is processing on each of these layers, but not massive amounts. So yeah, there's a bit of saturation, reverb, compression. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary here. A little bit of room reverb, but yeah, I think the key thing is layering up different drum kits. So you've got the normal Amen break and the Apache break, 2 breaks. I've cut them up and made my own little pattern and then layered them up. Then I've brought in some house drums, some real like 909 classic drums, and then normal shaker loop, normal tambourine loop, and then you've got a really full, unique sound. And there's many different breaks loops out there you can cut up. You can obviously use different kicks. I mean, the possibilities are endless with breaks. That's why I love it. It's so like, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for creative expression.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting as well, like how, you're taking old school dance music well, I say old school, they are classic dance music sounds. So you take the Amen break, you take the Apache break, and you also take a house loop. And 909. And you're actually taking all those elements and then making them into a modern track. And it shows why those things won't ever die, because I'm pretty sure if you just use an Amen break, you know, it would have sounded maybe too much like drum and bass, or if you just use the Apache. But that's a really interesting way, because arguably 4 out of the 5 components there are classic dance music things which you've been put in. And the other thing as well is I was going to pick up on is the saturation side of it. You're using lots of little instances of saturation,
just touches.
And I think that's really, really important to get a record rather than slam it in. I personally love sticking the Pultec on. Sometimes I don't even put anything on it, because it just makes it sound better. And I think that's what's really important with saturation, is just lots of little stages of it.
Absolutely.
But that was a really good insight. Like I said, for me personally, that's something I've wanted to know for a while. But is there any other element of it, like the chords you want to break down? Because those chords are a bit trancey. I mean,
let's have a look at the chords here. So I think they're pretty cool. They come from there's a diva layer, obviously everyone loves diva, but again, processing wise there's not much really happening, but diva just sounds great on its own. And diva does the main like pluck, which you'll hear here. We can show the notes for these.
Nice.
I think this is in D sharp minor.
And do you tend to always use own patches, presets, a bit of both, or do you tweak existing presets?
This, I think I tend to jump into a patch. 9 times out of 10, I'm in the creative flow, and I know my patches quite well. And this one, I believe, comes from Lufttrum. It's not in the right folder, but I believe this is a Lufttrum patch. Shout outs to Lufttrum, absolutely incredible. Don't know if you know him as a sound designer, but
no, I don't. But I am 100% going to check him out.
Lufttrum is just insane. He's very cinematic, super cinematic sounds. And this, I think I always play around on the keyboard and just try and jam some notes and see what happens. But I love this progression because you've got 4 notes again into a very kind of diminished chord. Like all the notes are super close together. It shouldn't really work, but it does. Let's just play this chord as well so you can hear it. I mean, it's quite a I don't know, it's a nice chord, but the notes are almost too close together to work properly. It does work though.
But then looking into it, it's obviously opening up on the next one, which gives a sense of,
and it goes into a 3-note chord, which brings back to simplicity.
Yeah, especially with the ARP as well. Like you're triggering 4 notes going to 3.
And the cool thing on this track is I had used the virus on it. So the virus GI makes a show in this tune.
Trance never dies.
Absolutely, it's still here, man. It's still here. And I did loads of out the box in the box processing on the virus. The virus is sadly not here, but I've got the recording of what came out of that, and I think it brought such a nice tone to the tune. Don't know if this is probably filtered actually. There he is. And again, it's just the same chords, but I think this is probably where the track started. I always like to sit down with the virus, jam, and just put some MIDI notes in and just jam on the actual buttons, on the actual hardware, and just see what happens and comes out. And then I'll record in and then almost treat that as a sample. As you can see here, I've obviously processed the life out of it. I've got gates, I've got obviously saturation and more saturation, reverb and delays, but we've come out with this really nice kind of unique tone or texture, which has kind of spurred the track on. And I think it almost plays, almost all through the whole tune. And I think that's really nice. I love to get the virus in because it's I've got to try and get some of that money back somewhere. It didn't cost me so much money.
The virus is a classic synth, especially with trance as well. And it's nice that it's finding ways into your workflow, because I think a lot of people in the day and age of, having everything at their fingertips would go for a virus, copycat or something. So it's great that you're using it. And I think that, the processing sounds great. So all the gates being triggered by an Ableton plugin?
No, it is. It's being triggered by this, I think it's just a noise gate on Operator.
Nice.
So I trigger this sine wave ultimately acts as a trigger for the gate. And so I can do any pattern I want in MIDI, which you can see here. It's kind of your normal triplet with a little bit at the end to give it a bit of thrill. But that is ultimately triggering this.
Nice. And that's a really interesting production technique. One, I think we touched on this earlier, which is now being made use by like Fred again and stuff like that with the whole, MIDI triggered or sine triggered. So it's interesting that you were doing that before it was cool.
Yeah. And I can't take all the credit. I think I listened to a Bicep podcast and they talked about this technique and I was like, oh, how can I make that happen? I didn't see it visually, but they talked about it in such detail that I could make it happen. So yeah, you're lucky you're getting to see this in the flesh.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really, really interesting. And are there any other, well, I feel like the drums and that are really key. Is there anything else you want to go through, which,
I think the vocal on this one pulled the tune together, which I was quite happy with. I think, where is she? She's here, right? Let's solo her. Let's get her without the filters. And you can hear, obviously, I'm doing the gate as well on the vocal. It does back off a bit. I like the fact that you can't really tell what it's saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And it's interesting that, you had a chord and melody and then it's looking like that vocal's playing all the way through, but it's such a big part of the track. It's so atmospheric, but it doesn't need to be anything more.
No. And people will probably put their own words to it. I think technically, should we listen and see what it says without all the effects on it? I think that's quite an interesting. Is
it from Splice?
I think this was Splice, yeah.
Nice, shout out Splice.
Yeah, Bridget Kelly on this one.
I'm still in love with you. Na, 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 na.
So what I've done is chop like two samples of Kelly. I always tend to do that, but it's a phrase and then a different na 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 na. And then I've created like a call and answer with that. But you can see it saying I'm still in love with you. And I think that's quite nice because it's like this tune is called Nightbus. You're on the way home from a night out on the Nightbus. And it's like, I'm still in love with you. It's like you're reflecting on the massive, amazing night that you just had. You're on the Nightbus. You're going through the streets of London and you're like, you're already feeling nostalgic about this amazing night.
Yeah, and you were there 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. And it's like, you put this track on and it's like, oh man, you're reflecting already, which I think is what I kind of intended. And I think that vocal just hit the nail on the head for me. But yeah, there it is without all the processing on it. I mean, you can tell how different it sounds.
Let's listen with the processing again. See if anyone can actually make it out. See, now it makes perfect sense, but I could not have told you what she was saying before.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And there is also that other one at the end there which says something. Let's see. Not sure what she's saying.
No, it's just like ad-lib vibes, basically.
Yeah. It's sometimes pitch these things down, but in this case I haven't done. But yeah, always play around with the pitch on the vocals. I've recently only just got Alter Boy as well, so I'm rinsing.
Sound Toys Little Alter Boy, it's great.
Yeah, I'm rinsing that one, but not been used at this stage in my production life cycle. But yeah, that's the vocal as well. I think that's a super cool part of the track. Other than that, there's obviously the massive respace, which ties the whole thing. And these, I always actually make these as well. This is Serum. Serum is what I use for all my low-end activity. Sometimes Diva, but I love the surgical approach from Serum.
Yeah, you can't beat that, digital precision when it comes to low end.
Absolutely. It sometimes reminds me of the Virus as well. It's just so fat. You can go really, really chunky with this thing. But yeah, again, super simple patch. I like to keep things basic. A couple saw waves. I've used a little bit of I think I'm using the sync. Yeah, I've just synced up a saw a little bit to get that kind of like almost 7th kind of
big detune sound.
Gives gives you like that higher, almost like a higher octave, but it's like somewhere in the middle, but it's still in tunes. It's so
Harmonics.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
it's all about.
Harmonics. It's super cool. And then yeah, that's about it on that. Going into the filter, obviously, always chuck on mono and always to get a bit of. Sometimes play with this Porto time to get that like rolling notes,
The gliding,
the glide,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then this dimension expander and the hyper is super cool to even add. It sounds really static, but when you add that, it like starts to like move and drift around, like almost like a phaser, but not quite a phaser. And then yeah, this multiband is obviously the OTT compressor. From
Steve Duda loved
Steve
it so
Duda.
much. He did his own thing.
Yeah, he knew he was onto something
He
with
did,
that.
he did.
He was like, wait a sec, let's make that into a.
Let's let everyone else experience it.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, and then yeah, that's the bass. I think I used Duck here to do the sidechain, which is you can trigger it via I think MIDI or sidechain source.
Sidechain input, yeah, nice.
Which is cool, and you can change the amount here, which is also really nice. And you can just draw in your own wave. I use this a lot for doing like gated vocal stuff as well. But there's crossover. I didn't actually use it on this one, but you can just single out like the low end, like sidechain, just the lows, which is super nice.
Frequency specific sidechain.
Yeah, it's like a multi-band sidechain, but just all in one plugin. And then another plugin that's cool on here is RBass. I don't know if you know that guy.
Love this plugin.
Yeah, it's like that is doing a lot of the beef on this tune. It just adds all that weight again with like some cheeky little EQing movements, but that's what's happening on this one. And then just like taking out, because RBass can be a bit OTT sometimes, so I've just took out.
Yeah, I always go
there.
super low percentage on it, but it doesn't really need any more, to be honest. So,
No.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that is pretty much not the fundamentals. Nightbus. Yeah, there's the Jupiter 8. I just want to shout out Roland Cloud because I don't know if anyone. Yeah, this is like a full rendition of the Jupiter 8. It does
Is that the Arturia one?
No, this is the Roland Cloud.
Oh, so yes, and this has got the system one and stuff in it as well.
It does. Yeah. And this is a really cool patch on here. This does the. Let's see, where is he?
That is old school.
It's almost ridiculous the amount of pitch bend that has on it.
But it works.
Yeah.
You're not going to solo and listen to that. So if it works in the record, then
Yeah.
go for it.
And it's like, I just heard that and like the movement on it. And this track is all kind of like phasing around, like pitching about. And again, with this lead. This lead was a classic like Blade Runner sound, which I just thought was wicked. I think, did I have this layer in as well? There's another like Serum Super Saw.
Yeah, that's almost like it comes in as that high layer to make it sound like it's huge.
It's like super epic. It sits under, it's like, because you've heard the lead already at this point, and then when it comes in on the breakdown, it's like, I need it to be more epic. And what else but a super saw?
Exactly. The super saw never dies, ever.
Exactly. And there he is.
Well, look, Max, that was an absolutely fantastic breakdown. I've definitely learned some things I want to learn. And guys, as I said before, if you want to, watch back, make sure you watch the podcast on YouTube, because obviously you can listen to it is one thing, but if you want to see the ins and outs, then definitely go online and watch it on YouTube. So I think, we may as well go into the second half of the show now. So these are more, I say quick fire questions. Maybe not quick fire, but, slightly more non-dance music ones. So this first question I've got here, and I don't remember what it is, so I'm going to read it off the laptop, is what is your favorite non-dance music artist or album of all time? And do you take any of that into your own productions?
Non-dance music. Favorite album? This is such a big question. And it's hard because there's so many pieces of music flying through my head right now. Like,
but is there any that
I think it's definitely rock orientated. Before I got into dance music, I was into it's got to be Linkin Park Hybrid Theory.
Ditto.
There it is. Yeah, hybrid theory especially.
Yeah, I
amazing.
think that. So for me, that was actually, how I got into dance music. I used to be that rocker, the Linkin Park. I like the heavier stuff as well. I still listen to it, but all that hybrid theory, Meteora sound, which had electronic elements.
It did.
So I think that, a part of me, and it sounds like a part of you and a lot of people in our generation have kind of taken that and it's just etched their way in because, they had the electronic elements. We were Linkin Park fans, and now people are listening to electronic dance music. There's something in the air.
No, definitely, because they always had that the DJ guy at the back.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, there was a track on there which was just him scratching, wasn't there?
One step closer to the edge.
Oh,
One
that
step
was cool.
closer to the edge.
Yeah, what a banger.
Yeah, and then it had Chester Bennington's Screamo.
Yeah, the classic crawling.
So would you say that that's maybe had a big influence on your music, or?
I like to think so, but it's maybe coming. It always had very like cool and catchy chord progressions, and I think something from my music has always been the chords. Right, the chords are like a big thing for me. I'm not someone who can just make a one note tune with like no chord movements. So if there's anything that I've taken from Linkin Park, it's like have some solid chord progressions in your music. And
catchy chord progressions.
Yeah, catchy chord progressions, which not only are catchy, but have a lot of emotion. Because I think Linkin Park's music, although it's super emo, let's face it. It's like, there's a lot of emotions rolling around on some of those Linkin Park tracks. And a lot of that obviously comes from Chester. But then I think a big part of it is the chords which are driving it. Cause
massively.
They're so fundamental to music.
And you can say that they're also like catchy and relatable. Like they're definitely not pop chords, but they're, popular progressions that people can relate to.
Yeah. They're almost their own take on pop chords. Like some of the tracks are very kind of run-of-the-mill pop, but somehow they've made them sound like not pop. I think in the end is like the classic.
Oh yeah, it doesn't get more poppy than that.
Yeah,
maybe because we've associated it with pop though.
Yeah,
who knows?
But like that piano melody right at the start just hooks you in, and it's like I want to do that with my music. Like, I want to hook people in somehow, however that is.
Well, I think that's it's interesting that, and it's not just you I've spoken to, but a lot of people who are ex-rockers who are into dance music.
Yeah,
maybe it's a sign of the times.
There you go.
But so the next question is, and I know you haven't prepped for these, so maybe you don't know off the top of your head. There might be too many, but favorite film soundtrack of all time?
Interstellar.
Ah, great! I saw Hans Zimmer the other week.
Interstellar. Man, that is incredible. I don't think maybe it's because I saw it in the IMAX. Yes. And it absolutely blew my face off. But that organ. Wow.
Yeah, and there was a guy called Roger who Christopher Nolan met in a chapel, and he wrote something, and Hans wanted it. So Hans wrote something and wanted it to be played on an organ, and he said it was impossible. They'd have to do it. And this Roger guy, there's a video of it online, said, no, it is possible. And he played it in front of Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer. And he came out at the Interstellar. He played it live on the organ.
That's insane.
So yeah, that's a great answer.
It's James Cameron, not Christopher Nolan.
What? Interstellar?
Yeah. Christopher Nolan is the Oppenheimer. That's just come out now, by the way.
But it is Hans Zimmer.
It is Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, it's definitely Hans Zimmer. It is. Yeah. I was just double checking. I was like, Hans Zimmer definitely played that the other day. I saw him at Wembley.
I've seen the video on YouTube actually of that guy playing it, and it is mental.
Yeah,
it's mental.
It is. It's, and I think it's like Hans said that he wanted to take the film was obviously a sci-fi epic, but then he brought the human element, which is obviously played by a earth sound, which is an organ. Like if you think of an earth sound, a classic sound, that is the organ.
It's like the first ever synth, really, isn't it?
Whoa. It is the first ever synth. I didn't think of it like that, but that's actually a great answer. So yeah, the next one, and I know we touched on this a bit before because I gave my answer, was favorite game soundtrack of all time.
Yes, you did. My favorite game soundtrack comes from, what's the game called? Oh no, brain freeze.
He's had a brain freeze.
No, it's like a space game. It's a space. It's called. I know the band who did the soundtrack. Why does the game's name escape me?
Is it single player, MMO?
It's both. Well, it was No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky. There it is.
Just quickly, I'm losing my mind right now because I played No Man's Sky a lot with my friends. I thought it wasn't a big thing. I know they fixed the game, but I know the music you're thinking of.
Yeah. 65 Days of Static, they're called.
That's crazy. It's a fantastic game, and I've wasted a lot of hours in it.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool game, man.
Yeah, that was... Geez, I wasn't expecting that, but great answer. Because I was going to say, I said Halo 3, but that surprised me more, that answer. So
I've also recently played Subnautica.
I've heard good things about that as well.
If you haven't played that game, it's amazing. It's super good.
I
and
need
the
to play
soundtrack's also very cool. Sci-fi, super sci-fi.
Yeah, I love and on the No Man's Sky, it's like when you get an achievement.
Yeah,
that soundtrack is
like it's like an epic. Like there again, it's corny, it's epic, it's everything that I'm about. Right? It's sci-fi epicness.
We love it. We love it. So the next question. This one is a little bit not personal, but is be as honest as you feel comfortable with. Is there anything you hate about the electronic scene you're in, and if so, why?
It's a good question. I think it's very hard to be honest, but I think it's quite saturated at the moment. And for me, there's almost, the internet's brilliant, right? It's amazing, but it's brought a lot of competition, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot of the same music out there. Like you have people doing pieces on YouTube, tutorials, and then you'll have a flurry of similar sounding music, and it's like there's the creativity's sort of getting lost.
It's like template driven music.
Yeah. It's you hear a lot of the same sound out of different artists basically, and I think previously, before the internet, you'd have very distinct sounds for each of the artists, but these
geographical sounds as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could almost pinpoint where in the world a track came from, and now it's obviously that those lines are getting blurred, and you're hearing almost the same sound across the whole world. It's
absolutely. And I think it's made it more competitive in a good way, because the caliber's gone up, but then also if the caliber being presented by these people is so good, you're going to use it. Like an example I use is the Vengeance packs. The reason why people use them for like a decade is because they sound sick.
I still use Vengeance.
Shout out to Vengeance
sound.
So we got to wrap this up, unfortunately. I could go for 5 hours, but and I know you touched on it earlier. You were talking about that group of producers you had. So it was like, the
AD boys.
The AD boys, as we call it, yeah. I saw you a couple of times at AD, actually. I remember. But who are the producers to look out for 2023, 2024? Are they in that group? Are there any unknown ones who deserve a shout out?
Obviously my boys. La is making some incredible tunes. He's got a lot of nice collabs coming out as well. Everyone knows Bound to Divide. Good friends with him. He's got some really great stuff. Yeah, shout out Jules. Bonatti has also got some wicked music coming out. He takes his time with his tracks, but he really crafts them, make sure that they are perfect. So I'm really excited to hear where he goes with them. And obviously LGU, he's slowly trying to change his sound up a little bit, so I'm excited to see what he's going to do with it. But those are my boys. I mean, in terms of unknowns, it's very hard because I'm a little bit antisocial these days, so I don't really get onto the Discords and talk with all the low-key boys. But I mean, there's a great young guy from I think he's based out in the Netherlands called Datsky. Don't know if you know Datsky.
Heard of him, yeah.
He's had a couple of releases on Colorize, I think, now, and he's got a super nice high fidelity sound. I'm also working on a track with Datsky, so shout out to Datsky.
Nice.
I'm excited to see what he can do.
Nice one. Well, unfortunately, guys, we've got to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. And I've said it before, but if you want to watch the whole thing, head to YouTube. This is going to be available on Apple Music, Spotify, and just give it a listen, give it a follow, share it with your friends.
At MXV DJ.
At MXV DJ, at Wild Music 1. Thanks for listening, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye.